Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Deep Thoughts. And today we are talking all about Fruits Basket episode 17. This is for Uo-chan. Just as a friendly reminder, if you want to share this video and you tag me on Twitter at JoJo Talks Too Much, I'll be sure to shout you out at the beginning of the episode 18 video and so on and so forth for every other video. Basically, if you shout out any of the videos on Twitter, and tag me in it, I'll be sure to shout you out at the beginning of the next episode of whatever show you're promoting. It's a big way to help out the channel. It is sincerely appreciated. Also, I gotta say that I definitely couldn't cover as many shows as I've been covering if it wasn't for all the help I've been receiving over on Patreon. The good ones have been super helpful becoming part of the T Squadron, so if you'd like to go over there and check out any of the cool rewards over there, as well as getting access to our private Discord, be sure to go ahead and check out our Patreon, link in the description. But without further ado, everybody, I am real excited to get into this episode. At the same time, I'm not, because this one kind of hurt my soul. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. This is normally where I tell you guys that I'm going to start with my good thoughts, then move into my bad thoughts, and then maybe talk about some stuff worth noting. Not only do I have nothing to note about the episode, I have nothing bad to say about the episode. It is such a shockingly well-handled episode. It's definitely you have to watch the episode beforehand, because I was going to say, like, it's such a perfect one and done episode, but you do need the first part of the episode, but that's not a fault of this episode. This episode on its own, serving as the second part to the first part of Uo's backstory, is insanely well handled. Spoilers for the rating this episode's going to get, but I genuinely found nothing wrong with this episode. I thought it was friggin' flawless. The cold open that we start this episode with is appropriately brutal. Just Uo getting the ever-living hell knocked out of her for no good reason, from what I gather, other than she's a Yankee and Yankees fight other Yankees. And it segues nicely into what I think is the second best scene in the episode, because it's, of course, like she gets pulled away by who else but Toru, of course, to the rescue. And that scene in particular is so friggin' cute. Like Uo getting the hell knocked out of her, and who does she run into but Toru? She even knocks the tofu out of Toru's hands before they run away together. But I don't know. Toru serves as such a beacon not only for characters like Uo, or for the Somas rather, but also for characters like Uo. The fact that she's constantly the source of goodness in people's lives is just, I don't know. It's charming. And what I appreciate, and I'll get into this more, is that the episode doesn't necessarily say that everything should be like Toru, that everybody should be like Toru, that everything should be fine and dandy. You kind of need darkness to make the light shine brighter, which is something that Kyoko says, but we'll get into that later. I gotta say, the second best scene in the entire episode takes place immediately after Toru rescues Uo, and that's Uotani just taking in the peaceful atmosphere. There's no music in that scene, at least not at first, and it's just Uo turning on the TV. You can see she's like beaten, like from the fight, so she's like probably still stinging in pain and like just listening to what I gathered to be like just a weather forecast, and hearing kids outside the window say like, "Hey, okay, I'll see you later," and it's just calm. It's a very still scene, right? Like nothing crazy is going on. There's no music swelling or anything. It's a very calm scene, and it almost got me to cry, just because I knew what that calmness meant to Uotani. Like, to anyone else, it's just, a quiet day. To Uotani, that meant everything. Like, the fact that, like, she was so insanely uncomfortable because she knew it's what she wanted, but all she's known is, like, just a awful life. That she's so uncomfortable in goodness and just warmth and kindness, and she's not sure how to handle it. She knows she wants just that, like she wants a calm, quiet, warm life, but she's so not used to it that it genuinely makes her uncomfortable. And oh my god, they nailed that scene so well, especially her falling asleep or Toru falling asleep, her falling asleep, and then Toru falling asleep on her shoulder, and Kyoko walking in, and it's just, it is, I can't even really begin to describe how well that scene was handled. It was just friggin' phenomenal. And I will say, it ended so much faster than I thought, which did keep me on my toes. And I don't mean that in a bad way. The flashback just ends, and then we get pulled back into the restaurant that they're eating in. And we do get the new Yankees. the new trio of Yankees come back, and they serve a pretty comedic and a role in the episode, but at the same time insanely appropriate. They serve as this total foil for, not even foil, but they serve as this reminder for Uotani, right? Like, suddenly Uotani went from, like, we see Uotani in the flashback being a darker version of this trio, like where this trio will eventually wind up if things don't get better fast. Because they think it's all fun and games, haha, Yankee toughs, right? But Uotani's been down that road and knows where it lands. So now all of a sudden she's their Kyoko. And it does end weird for them. Like the cosplay at the end was friggin' bizarre, but like, yeah, because they end the episode with this little like afterward with the trio of Yankees who now like idolize Uotani. But like the one like cosplays as Uotani, it was weird. I was like, oh man, that's strange. Like, I get that they're supposed to be funny, but that is like, it's still funny, but like, it was like that strange kind of funny. I was like, really? That's where the Yankees end up? They just praise Uotani? Okay. I kind of hope we see them again. They're fun, honestly. But yeah, seeing Uotani step up as sort of this like new mentor figure for them, it felt like her character came full circle in a matter of 2 episodes. Like, we've known Uotani for a long time, but her character growth over these 2 episodes in particular has been insanely well handled. And of course, you have the Kyoko bonding with Uotani, and it was super heartwarming. And then we get into the big moment, right? There's the big moment that leads into my personal favorite scene. So the big moment that happens, well, at first I should address, like, we get Kyoko and Uotani bonding, and like Kyoko constantly tending to Uotani, like she knows what she's been through, like almost taking in Uotani as like a second kid, like to an extent, and just seeing how the influence of the Toru and her mom on Uotani, how that household like eventually warms her. It's a slow process, but you see it like slowly form, and it's really well done. But then we get the contrast between school / the Honda household versus gang life. And while the Honda household is warm and fun, gang life is dark. And it's interesting, right? Because the the Honda stuff is light and almost has like a warm feel to it, right? Like has a lot of warm colors, whereas gang life, it's dark, has a lot of cool colors. It's very cold. It's a much colder environment. So not only are they doing excellent with the actual like written storytelling, the visual storytelling is also on point. And then we get the trial by fire, which hurt my soul. And what do I mean by trial by fire? I mean, this is like, okay, I'm gonna make a reference that I don't know if everybody's gonna get. Some people, if you've been on the channel for a long time, you know that one of my favorite gaming series, and yes, I so rarely get to talk about my other big passion, which is gaming, but one of my favorite series in gaming is the Yakuza series. But in particular, the one that I started with was Yakuza 0. And Uotani reminded me so much of Majima in this episode. And not like super, like, it's not like a one-to-one correlation. But, like, certain characters, like I can't remember her name, but the girl, like the gang member who likes, like the older one who like stands up for Uotani. And vague spoilers for Yakuza 0 here. Actually, no, big spoilers for Yakuza 0 here. The older gang member who sticks her neck out for Uo reminded me a lot of Sagawa from Yakuza 0. And while it's stated that, no, she moved away, I'm feeling more of a Sagawa ending for that character, just because she said, I never saw her again, but I heard she moved far away. That doesn't sound like that's exactly what happened. At least that's not the vibe that I got. And maybe this is just a fanon thing, like this is just my headcanon of what happened. I don't think it ended well, and I definitely think they found out what she did. So that's just me. But the Majima vibes don't stop there, because it's also just the fact that she has to go through this trial by fire to get into a better place, right? Like just the fact that she goes through all this stuff, like Majima from Yakuza 0. But that's where the Yakuza 0 stuff stops. I'm sorry I even brought it up. I know some people are like, Yakuza what? I'm sorry. But that whole thing leads into the big moment, which is the walk home. Them walking home is probably the most impactful and emotional moments this entire season, and I don't know if it's gonna be topped. If it's gonna be topped, it's probably gonna come from Fruits Basket. This show, when it wants to, can absolutely tear your heart out, but it can also mend your heart, but in such a way that it still makes you cry. And I'm not afraid to say that I definitely cried. Because, like, it's the fact that, like, as they're walking home, I was fine up until Kyoko started talking about how it's okay to be what you are. Like, it's okay to be you, Uo. Like it's like you needed to go through what you went through here to get to where you want to be now. And you need that darkness, because you only notice how dark everything is when you see how bright the light is. And I was like, oh, no, I'm okay. I'm not crying. You're crying. Everything's fine. And then it was, I want to be Toru's best friend. And I was like, oh, okay, now I'm crying. Now, dang it. That's the best scene in the entire episode. That's the best scene from Fruits Basket in this, like, in the summer season. And, since summer started, I think that's been Fruits Basket's best scene. And that's saying something, because Fruits Basket, this show kills me. This show absolutely kills me, and it's funny because I know a lot of you guys are manga fans or just fans of the original series, and I bet you guys got emotional too. Like, that's the power of this show. As a newcomer, I'm experiencing all this for the first time, and so of course it hits like a truck. But from what I gather from older fans, like, it still hits. So that's a testament to what TMS has been able to do with this series so far. And yeah, those are all my thoughts. This went on a lot longer than I think I intended it to. And it's funny because I took less notes, but I just had more to say, I suppose. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on episode 17 of Fruits Basket. 17, I was right. And episode 17, this one is for Uo-chan. Definitely gets a strong A+. Friggin' phenomenal work. Fruits Basket nailed it. And of course, before we end a video, I always have to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Dominic, Urza, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Omner Garamond, Opinionated Slime, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Tristan, and Veridon. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you too would like to join the Patreon, check out the link in the description. It would be super appreciated. But that's gonna end today's video, everybody. So if you enjoyed it, I'm sure you've been on the internet long enough to already know what to do, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is friggin' appreciated. And if you've had a stressful day or this episode just broke your heart and you feel like you need it, go make yourself a warm cup of tea, and I'll talk to you guys again real soon.